Uh, the story of Workday and how it came to be. I've been meaning to do this series for a long time. People been asking about specific movies. Every time I'm around a crowd and people have seen my movies, I always get people asking me how certain things came about. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do a series, and one by one, I'm gonna go through each one of my movies. So Workday, a lot of folks know, is my first feature film. I produced Workday um, April. I think it was early. I think it was March or April in 2021. We were right smack dab in the middle of a pandemic. Nobody knew what was going on, and it was time for me to make a movie. I had picked up a camera in about 2008 with the intention of becoming a film director, and it wasn't until 2021 when I made my first feature film. It's not because I was lazy, but it's more so because I started my new Philly, and that kind of derailed my filmmaking plans, which I don't regret. I'm where I'm supposed to be right now. But how Workday came about was during the pandemic, 2020 into 2021, I had started what I call relation skits. And this was something I had done a long time ago for like different brands, like promotional content, where like I just put a couple in a certain scenario, but it was like to sell an event. Like I remember I did that for Black Decadence way back at Vault. But the concept always stuck with me of like just relationships. I've been through a lot in relationships, and I just wanted to write relationship content. A lot of people remember I used to do speed dating events and relationship forums and the whole nine. So I always had these ideas about relationships in my mind, and I always had different scenarios presented in these relationship forums we used to host. That I was like, yo, this would be a dope story. This would be a dope movie. This would be a dope concept. But back then, I wasn't a film director. I wasn't a screenwriter. So when the pandemic hit, I'm like, man, I got to do something. I got to be creative. Y'all know we all was cooped up in the house. We was like, man, I got to do something creative. So I started writing these relation skits, and I basically would put men and women on different sides of an idea was the concept. Like, what's a very relatable relationship idea that a lot of people go through, and how can I write it in a way that men and women could be on both sides of the argument, right? It wasn't just cut and dry that the woman was right and the man was wrong or whatever. And on top of that, I saw on social media, most relationship content was skewing funny. A lot of people weren't doing it in a dramatic way. So I was like, I'm gonna do it in a dramatic way. And I started doing these relation skits. So fast forward, I got to the concept of a workday. And at first, there's a scene in Workday where the woman's feet hurt. And the guy asked her, do you want me to rub your feet? That was the relation skit. Like, it was basically like she wasn't getting this done at home. This guy at work is going to do it, and that's going to be his doorway into stealing your girl, basically. That was the relation skit. It was going to be 2 minutes long. But again, time on my hands. So I kept writing, and I was like, all right, who's this woman? Right? Shout out to Aisha White, who played Kayla in Workday. Who's this guy? Myself, I played Quentin in Workday. We were the two people that worked together that had differences going on in our relationships. So the it started to grow, right? The relationship between those two started to grow. And I started to say, okay, if I'm going to grow this, now it's like 20 minutes. It's longer. It's like a short film now. And I started to be like, all right, I'm gonna do a short film about it. And then I was like, well, who is this man in a relationship with, and why is he looking outside of his relationship, which I feel like is a real concept, right? Who is this lady in a relationship with that is making her even consider looking outside of her relationship, which again is a real thing. So I just kept writing, and before you knew it, I had a feature-length movie. Very basic concept, but it was so relatable that people really, really loved that movie, right? So now I just started reaching out to people. I'm not going to just shout out everybody in the movie, but I started reaching out to people. Believe it or not, my homegirl Stephanie Nicole from Everybody Eats, she was actually supposed to play Amira, Quentin's wife, in that movie, but she just got too busy and she couldn't do it. Shout out to Aisha. A lot of people don't know that Aisha was one of the heaviest days when we did all of those office scenes. She wasn't feeling well. She had a crazy migraine and she powered through what was probably like a 14-15 hour day. We had that office building one day. My girl Safangela was able to use one of her relationships to get us that law office. Steven Schatz, shout out to him for allowing us to use their law office for the filming of Workday. So I went into Workday with, I was like, I'm not gonna spend more than $8 grand on this project. And that's about what I spent, but that was really just feeding folks. I had my own Airbnb at the time, which we used to film a lot of the scenes, and just relationships. I had to rent a few places, but just my relationships and, you know, Airbnbs and all those types of things, we got it done. And I reached out to everybody during that top of that pandemic, and I just was really like, hey, I'm not doing nothing. You ain't doing nothing. Want to do a movie? And I told everybody, I'm like, y'all, no one's getting paid. Like, I think I paid up front Aisha and James Hyatt and Bannerman, my DP. He was a first-time DP at the time, but I told him, I said, look, I'm going to teach you on the job. And I'm gonna also pay you what I can pay you. It ain't fair, but you know, this your first time DPing anyway. But shout out to him for getting the job done. My guy Malachi, I brought on for sound, and I told him he wasn't getting paid, but I'm gonna train you on the job so that you can learn. And then I had like 3 different ADs: Fee Goodson, Brad Baker, and Naj Dans was my ADs. And I had to interchange them because they all wasn't free every day. So I had Brad one day, Fee a couple days, Naj a couple days. And shout out to the whole cast. William Lewis, Ryan, I'm gonna forget people, Tierra, Ronnie Baker Jr., Charles Harris, Ashley Gandy. Oh man, I'm gonna forget people. Safangela was in it, of course. If I'm forgetting you, I'm sorry, but that, I think, was the main cast of Workday. We got that movie done in, I think it was 6 days originally, but then we did a pickup, so 7 days total. And I learned so much. To this date, like when I got it done, I was like, maybe put in a couple festivals, see what it do, whatever. But Safangela, to her credit, she was like, Kyrie, this is a really good movie. Like, don't be too hard on yourself. It's your first movie. I think it's great. And all the way up until the premiere, because she was like, we got to have a premiere and we got to do this hoopla. I wasn't going to do none of that for Workday. And up until the premiere and the reception of the film, I really was like, yo, I see what she's talking about. And really the reception of that film really sparked something in me. I already knew I wanted to be a creator and be a director and do movies and everything. But hearing people's reaction real time, like laughing to the jokes that I wrote, you know, relating to some of the scenes, and then what people were saying after the film, on down to, you know, my guy Jamal Hill, I told him to watch it and he was like, yo, you can make some money off of this. And he ended up being the catalyst for getting it put on Tubi and making some money. Definitely made my money back, and then some, so appreciate him for that. But if I could sum up Workday in a quick little nutshell and give y'all some advice, Workday was my very first film, my very first feature film, and it took way more work than I expected it to take. I only had one PA, Joey. Shout out to Joey. If not, like, the team was really, the production team was really me while I'm acting, right? Joey was everything. Grip, Gav, PA, producer, you name it, Joey was everything on that project. Malachi, first time sound guy. James Hyatt, first time DP. We figured it out, and it was hard. It was tough, but we got it done, and that was the goal. My thing is, like, I hate to start things and not finish them, right? So anybody who's out there that's working on a project, especially your first time, and it don't got to be a film, figure out how to stick to it, right? That's why it took me so long to go from I want to be a film director to actually doing my first film, is because I was busy figuring out how to do it and make sure that no one could tell me no, right? That this train was going to go from point A to point B and nothing was going to stop us. Workbay ended up opening the door for every other project that you've seen me do. So I'm very, very thankful for that project. I'm very thankful for everyone that worked on that project. Once we did premiere the project and we made some money, I paid everybody. I gave everybody some money. And they were told they weren't going to make any money on the project. They were told, look, this is a practice. This is a scrimmage. We're going to see what we can do. But once I made some money, I shared the wealth. And number one thing I learned on Workbay is how important a good team was. And that led me to start to put my team together moving forward. Filmmaking is the ultimate team sport. And you really need people with great energy. You need people with talent. You need people with patience. You need a good cast. You need a good crew. And I'm not going to say I didn't have a good cast. I had an unprepared cast. They didn't know what they were walking into. Everybody that was in the film can act. They do their thing. They got other credits, the whole nine. Speedy, Francisco. I'll forget Francisco. Everybody, it was good cast, right? But I did not prepare them right. I did not direct them right. I was a shell of the director that I am today as I boast my 10th or 11th project. But at that point, when I look back, I'm like, wow, I came a long way in a short amount of time, because it's only 2025 as I record this. And since Workbay in 2021, Focus Studios has literally put together 9 or 10 more projects. I always forget one. And we put out 6 of those. We have 3 coming, like about to drop. But to date, as I sit here, 10 projects, which is crazy work. So yeah, man. Workbay, the story of Workbay.